Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon, and welcome to today's edition of The Law and You. I'm your host, yours truly, attorney at law Shellon Washington, licensed in the state of New York, in Guyana and Trinidad. Welcome again this afternoon, guys. And today we're going to speak about getting paid after you've been involved in some sort of accident, which was caused by the negligence of somebody else other than yourself. And obviously, when we're speaking about you suffering any sort of injury and getting paid for it, it must be as the result of the negligence of another person and obviously not yourself. If it's yourself, you probably will not be getting paid. But if it's due to the negligence of somebody else, you will definitely stand a chance of getting paid. Now, when we speak about accident, getting paid for accident, what type of accident am I specifically referring to? I'm referring to an accident such as a car accident, or it could be just a slip and fall on the sidewalk in somebody else's home. Any of those things involving somebody else being negligent by either driving recklessly, doing something reckless, or even leaving a dangerous condition, which you become a victim of. But we're going to exclude for today any accident caused on your job. So, because in the state of New York, when we're speaking about getting paid for injuries, it has to exclude work because any injury that is caused to you on your work and it's work related, that will be covered by workers' compensation, which we will not be covering in today's live. Today's live will just be covering any type of injuries that you might have suffered as a result of a car accident, some sort of negligence by somebody else other than yourself. Now, let's speak about the car accident first, and then we'll move to injury or accidents on the sidewalk or in somebody else's home. The first thing you should know about suffering any type of injury by a car accident, first of all, it must not be your fault. Some state proportionate fault and some state does not. Like, for instance, if people live in the state of New Jersey, they do it in terms of proportion. So you'll be compensated. If you are negligent yourself, then you're compensated based on your own contribution to your negligence. In the state of New York, we do not have a similar situation, but you're compensated only if it's your tortfeasor's negligent. And the tortfeasor would be the person who is responsible for your negligence. For your injury, I'm sorry. So somebody who, for instance, you're driving and somebody rear ends your car and you suffer a whiplash. That person is responsible, the law said they're responsible for your injuries. Or there could be another scenario where there's a head-on collision, but somebody runs not the red light, but it could be a situation where it could be that you were on the right of way or something, and the person came out from a minor street and they just head on run into you or something of that nature. But the bottom line is you must not be responsible. It must be somebody else that is responsible for your injuries. In that case, where someone else is responsible for your injuries, the law says you're entitled to be compensated. And the big question is, how do I get compensated after somebody was negligent and they hit my car, or they ran into me, or I was a pedestrian walking on the crosswalk and some negligent driver didn't pay attention and didn't stop? How do you get compensated? First of all, if you're injured, your medical is going to reflect the extent of your injury. So in every single personal injuries case that you're claiming that you were injured, the first thing you would need to do is go checked out by the doctor. If it's severe enough, you go to the ER, the emergency room, get checked out, get your physical, and then the doctor there is going to refer you to your primary care physician. The next step is you go to your primary care physician and explain to that person what happened. And then if the primary care physician believe you have continuing pain or your injuries is going to need continuous treatment, they're going to send you to a specialist. And based on what type of injury, if it's back pain, neck pain, knee pain, whatever it is, that person is going to refer you to maybe a chiropractor so that you can start doing therapy. Now, in the state of New York and in everywhere else that I know that I've done personal injury, the situation is the extent of your injury is how you get compensated. And you will see this even if you try to negotiate your own case with the insurance company, which I will never recommend, because the insurance company has specialists, people who are specialized in negotiating claims, this sort of claims. So they're trained to read or have a nurse or somebody else go through the medical and tell them exactly what type of treatment, what type of injury you have, whether or not the injury is severe enough to warrant any type of compensation. And as people know, certain insurance company, they do not pay. They don't like to pay. One of the most famous one that people know about, right, starts with a G. They do not pay. They like you to file a lawsuit. And then once that lawsuit is filed and you get them into court, then they will make an attempt to settle. The reason is some insurance companies do not believe the injury is severe enough a lot of times to warrant them actually paying out a settlement. So a lot of times they prefer you to go file a lawsuit because then they'll know, okay, maybe your claim has some sort of merit, maybe it has validity to it. And once you file that lawsuit, your chances of getting a settlement goes up higher. But again, it's based on the medical. So you must have had extensive medical or treatment with a physician, chiropractor, whoever, pain management doctor, to show that you actually had an injury and you did seek treatment. I've seen a situation with a lady, and this is one of the least severe cases. And guys, you got to know when you'll be able to ask for more money versus when you should just accept what is being offered to you. I know of one case where a car just simply ran over somebody's foot. Now, you know, if a car, the tires run over somebody's foot, your chances of getting very, very injured is very slim to none, because the amount of pressure it would take to actually break your toes or break the bones in your foot is not enough by a tire just running over. And the lady who the tire ran over her foot, she was trying to claim back pain, and she was claiming that that simple act of the car running over her foot precipitated other pre-existing condition, or aggravated certain pre-existing conditions in her body. Well, I'm not sure that the jury is likely to believe her because I'm not the person who represented her in that case, but I think she has a very, very difficult threshold to meet, where she is claiming that a car ran over her foot, but then it aggravated other pre-existing conditions in other parts of her body, not relating to the foot at all. So just bear in mind when you're trying to establish your damage or your injury for any type of any type of negligence somebody might have done and caused you to get into some sort of accident, you must be able to show the nexus between what happened to you and the injury that you're complaining about. So for instance, if you get rear-ended, everyone know from rear end, you're likely to suffer lower back pain and neck injury. And a lot of times your MRI will corroborate or support that you have a herniated disc in your neck or your lower back, or you have soft tissue. There's something there that would cause the doctor to realize that you need treatment because you have a condition requiring that treatment. Now, just remember when in the accident, most insurance company will do an independent medical examination of you at the end of your physical treatment or your physical therapy, whatever it is you're doing. If you're taking chiropractic treatment weekly or every other week, at the end of that treatment, most likely to run anywhere between 3, 4, 6 months, anywhere between then, depending on the insurance you have. Some insurance are just basic, so they would not allow you to, they wouldn't cover your personal injuries beyond maybe say 3 months or 4 months. And some insurance are very comprehensive in that it allows for the client to go and receive treatment for a significant amount of time. Now, if you come to the United States on holiday and you got involved in an injury, an accident, when you go back home, you have to keep treating with a chiropractor wherever you live. If you don't, and you intend to file a claim against the person who was responsible for your injury, then chances are you will get very, very little in terms of any type of compensation. Pain and suffering is based on the extent of the injury. So the more significant the injury, the more pain and suffering you're likely to endure, and the more treatment you're likely to seek. And the more treatment you seek, the more it is that insurance will be willing to pay you for your pain and suffering. Because obviously, if you are treating with a physician for 5, 6, 7, or even 8 months because your injury is so severe, you're more likely to get way more money because somewhere in there you might not be able to go to work. You might not be able to continue to do the things that you used to do prior to the injury. So some people like going to the gym, and after an injury, typically you will not be able to go continue to go to the gym. Some people like to clean their house, clean their apartment, wherever it is that they live. And it's more than likely that after that injury, you will not be able to do all these things that you were doing before. Now, if you're still able to do all these things, then there's a problem in that you might not get the type of compensation you're looking for, because inherent in any personal injuries claim is you're telling the tort fees, or you're telling the insurance company, you're telling the court that, listen, I am injured, and the things that I did before this injury, I can no longer do them. I used to go to the gym. Now I cannot go to the gym. I used to go running. I can't go running anymore. And, people, oftentimes we see movies and we think it's a joke where people are injured. And when they're at home, they're doing everything. And when they go outside, they put this neck brace on, or they use a cane to make it look worse than it actually is. But some of that is actually reality with what happens to people. But the fact is, if you're injured, your injury must show up on your medical record. People must see evidence of it, so that when you go and you do the independent medical examination, the person who's conducting the exam is going to be like, okay, yes, definitely, we see evidence of significant injury, and yes, I see you, Melissa Atwell. Good afternoon. I see your comment. Yes, guys. And yeah, so whenever you're talking about any type of injury from any condition, your treatment is important. Now, let's talk about not just car accident. Let's talk about other types of injury. Let's, for instance, talk about injury from you go into somebody's home, you visit your friend, and you slip and fall on the stairs because, let's say, the stairs was not properly maintained. The carpet has a hole or something, and your foot gets caught in the carpet, in the hole, in the rock, and you fall down the stairs. Now, that is a type of injury that you're entitled to compensation for. If you slip and fall on somebody's stairs, slip and fall in their home, or let's say they have ice on the sidewalk in front of their house, which the city said that they're responsible for, and you slip and you fall there, you are also entitled to compensation. All these types of injuries, you must show that you receive medical treatment. And when we talk about medical treatment, guys, we're not talking about just go to the doctor once, go to the hospital twice, and then you're finished. Now, there's another type of injury which I need to mention. This is sometimes you just suffer from emotional types of injury. So some people, people do things to them, like you intimidate somebody, you bully somebody online, or somebody speak ill things or false information about you online. That's another type of injury that is compensatable before the court. But again, you guys have to show that, hey, I've been going to the doctor and I'm billing this medical record to show that I've seen the doctor like 10 times so far since the injury, and I've been receiving medication, some sort of treatment, which I'm taking on a daily basis. So just so you know, panic attacks. Panic attacks could be precipitated from just people speaking negative things about you online. That's one of the type of injuries I've seen people suffer as a result of people spreading false information and trying to destroy somebody's business, somebody's livelihood. These are things that you can get compensated for. But again, to get compensated for any type of emotional distress, you have to have the medical as proof to show the court, like, listen, this person has been defaming me. We have a most famous Guyanese person right now that everyone knows about that is going online and is trying to destroy a lot of people's businesses, a lot of people's livelihoods. And everyone knows that you cannot do that. You cannot willfully go and spread false information about people online, not in the United States. You can do that in Guyana. For those people watching who are from Guyana, you can try that in Guyana. And even in Guyana, the defamation law allows you to be compensated for injurious falsehood, for defamation, for any type of wrong. Somebody goes and spread rumors or false information about you, you're entitled to it. And guess what? The laws in Guyana protects you even more from defamation than it does in the United States, because in the United States, there's certain things that must happen before you get compensated. Now, certain types of defamation in Guyana is damage per se, which means you do not have to prove much injury to be compensated. And there are certain types of injury in the United States also is that you receive damage regardless of whether or not you're able to establish that the person that you suffer any type of damages. So for instance, if somebody make a false statement about your disease, you have some sort of disease that you don't even have, that is damage per se. You don't have to prove anything. If somebody go make a false statement like that about you, you're going to receive compensation from the court one way or the other. No issues. You're going to get paid anyway. But if it's not a case where there's damage per se, then the court, so you have to establish, you have to prove that you are entitled to the damages that you're claiming. Now, you can claim any amount of damages. There's something that attorneys use called the jury verdict. The jury verdict will show you every single type of cases that a jury granted a judgment for and what the judgment was for, the amount. Now, the highest type of damage anybody has received in this country has always come from a jury trial. It's never can come from a settlement. Obviously, if you settle in a case, you're going to receive way less than you're entitled to if you got judgment before a court and a jury, that is a jury judgment. Jury judgment tends to be very high. And a lot of people might remember the McDonald's case. It wasn't in New York, but that is one of the most famous cases where the lady went and she bought the coffee at the McDonald's store and the coffee was so hot. She spilled the coffee, it burnt her leg, and she was able, I think she got like 3rd degrees burn, and she was able to become compensated for that type of injury. Now, again, like I said, with being compensated, it depends on the extent, the degree, and everything else that goes with it. That woman was able to get a multi-million-dollar jury verdict damages. If she had settled that case, it would not have been that much. And very often people agree to just settle versus to go and just continue to litigate in court. Litigation is very expensive, but it's the best way for you to get fully compensated for the wrong that you have suffered. Guys, if you're here and you're enjoying this content and you've seen all the content that I've produced here, I want you to go ahead and smash the like button and ensure that you share this page, share this live. Once you continue to do that, it will help me, enable me to continue to bring you all of this information every single Saturday at 4 p.m. Continue to comment and share the live as much as you can, guys. So let's continue here. Now, again, let's continue to discuss the issue of your damages and what you're entitled to and how much you're going to get. Now, like I said, the jury verdict is the greatest type of damages you can get in the state of New York if you suffer any type of injury. Now, the settlement is a case where you say, well, you know what? I don't want to keep fighting. I would like to settle this case as quickly as possible. So if I can just get, if we can just come together and compromise on an amount that I think is satisfactory to me, I will take that amount and I will go. But if it's a case where you're feeling like there's no amount of money that this person can actually pay me to make me satisfied for what they've done to me, you can go straight for the verdict. And if you go for the verdict and you get the right jury, chances are you're going to walk away with a multi-million-dollar judgment against that person. Now, some people, you got to bear in mind also, some people are what we call judgment proof. If somebody is judgment proof, that means they cannot, even if you get a judgment against them, chances are you might never get the money that the judgment is for. So if you get $10 million judgment, $3 million, $4 million against a person who is judgment proof, you might not be able to recover that money. But guess what? A judgment is good for 20 years in the state of New York. So at any point, if it becomes possible, you will be able to enforce that judgment against that person. And if the person ever have assets, anything that you can put that levy that judgment against, you'll be able to do that. Another thing you'll be able to do is garnish the person's wages. The person's wages are garnishable if they have a hefty judgment against them and they can't pay. And there's some people who have assets as a result of a divorce. You'll be able to levy against those divorce assets so that you can satisfy at least a part of your judgment. The law has long arms and it can find you wherever you go. Some people move out of state to avoid a judgment, but fortunately you could go to the state that they're in, register your judgment, and take steps to enforce it in whatever state that they move to so that that judgment will follow them wherever they go. unless they're judgment proof, which means they'll never have a job, they'll never have assets in this country, they'll never have anything that you could levy against to enforce your judgment. Unless that's the case, then wherever they go, you can follow them with that judgment. And it's easy to find people in this country. You can run searches, you can find them that way. You can have process server do certain things, or even if there's a way to get the person's social security number and run a search via the social security number to find the person's address, and you'll be able to execute a search against that person. Other than that, guys, there's other ways. There's ways to find a judgment debtor so you can enforce your judgment against that person. But the extent of your damage, the extent of your injury is what actually tells the court what you should be granted in a judgment, or that's how the court direct the jury. Because you can sue for any amount. You could sue for millions of dollars, but it's going to come down to what the jury is able, whatever judgment the jury believe you're entitled to. And a jury is easier to convince than if you do a bench trial on something where you suffered any injury. I would never encourage anyone, if you suffered any type of injury, to do a bench trial. Because if you do a bench trial, you're restricted to whatever the judge says you're entitled to, and whatever he gives you, you'll have to deal with that. So guys, today I have to cut just a little bit short because I have an event that I need to run to, but I just wanted to go through this quickly. I'm just going to do a recap of what I've said regarding getting paid for any injuries that you have suffered. And guys, this is not restricted to injuries in a medical malpractice situation, because in medical malpractice, it's a little bit different. Again, the injuries also in a medical malpractice will be based on your actual injuries. And very often in medical malpractice, your injury might be permanent and you may never be able to recover. But just remember, in all of these scenarios that I've listed, your injury must be something that caused you some amount of pain and suffering. You must have gone through something as a result. You must have lost an income. You must have lost something as a result of your injuries. I've had a situation where somebody came to me and they said, listen, I would like to sue for X, Y, and Z. But I'm like, so what type of injury did you suffer? Were you in pain for a number of days or months or weeks or whatever? And they're like, no, I didn't suffer any pain. I just undergo the surgery and they didn't fix the problem, and the problem is still there. So that's not something that you can easily get compensated for, because you didn't suffer any loss. You have to suffer some sort of losses. There have to be some sort of pain and suffering. There have to be some sort of damages, injury to you, that you suffered something. If you never suffered, for instance, if somebody slipped and they got a little cut on the side of their leg and they just go stitch it up, they didn't feel any pain, they didn't lose any days of work or anything, you're not going to be compensated anything significantly for that. But if it's a large cut or a broken bone or a broken arm, something really significant enough, then, chances are you will get compensated a lot. And then it depends on what type of job you're doing, how long you've been working for, how long you have to stay off of your work in order to treat your injury. These are all factors that goes into how much you're going to be compensated. And if you want a lot, then make sure whatever your injury is, if it's significant enough that you're taking the treatment for it and you're recording it, you have a record. Your doctor is keeping all these records. He sent you to the pain management doctor. You've done physical therapy. You've done all of these things. And if it's a emotional injury, let's just briefly touch emotional injury. Emotional is going to be people who are waking up with panic attacks. You can't sleep. You have insomnia, and the doctor has to prescribe pain, sleep medication, and something to calm you down to make you go back to normal. This type of medication is going to prove that you're suffering some sort of pain and suffering. If, let's say, the insomnia or the anxiety is preventing you from working, that also goes towards increasing the amount of damages you are likely to receive if you were to go to court. Anyway, guys, It's now 4:25. I would like to stop just 5 minutes early today so I can get to my event. If you got any question about anything I've said here today, just send me a text message, message me on Messenger, or you can call the office number. The number is right there, 718-877-3100. You can call the office Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. We're available to take your calls, answer your questions, and we provide free 15 minutes worth of consultation to you. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me again today for The Law and You. Again, I'll see you next week at the same time, 4 p.m. for The Law and You. And remember to smash the like button, share this live so that people who need this information will be able to gain access to it. Thank you, guys, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Do enjoy your day tomorrow. Thank you, guys.